what transboundary water cooperation is, its relevancy, and what needs to be done for many of our nations to continue enjoying the opportunities that come along cooperation in managing water resources? In our EcoPlus program today, we bring you the Commissioner Water Planning and Regulation, also Acting Director, Directorate of Water Resources in the Ministry of Water and Environment, Dr. Callist Tindimugaya, to enlighten us more on transboundary water cooperation and how best it's benefiting Uganda as a nation.
Transboundary water is basically water that we share with other countries. Water doesn't recognize administrative boundaries. So it will not know the boundary of Uganda, it will not know the boundary of Kenya or Tanzania. So transboundary water is the water that crosses borders and which we share with other countries. And when we work together to manage and develop that water, then we are cooperating on that water. So we call it transboundary water cooperation. We are cooperating with other countries to be able to look after this water and make sure that it is used for different purposes. This water's example, Lake Victoria. If you see Lake Victoria, it is shared by Uganda, Kenya, and Tanzania. Part of Lake Victoria is in Kenya, part of Lake Victoria is in Uganda, part of Lake Victoria is in Tanzania. River Nile, for example. River Nile starts in Uganda, it goes through South Sudan, Sudan, and Egypt. So Kagera, River Kagera, actually comes from Rwanda and Burundi, passes through Uganda, part of Tanzania, and flows to Lake Victoria. River Semliki comes from Congo, enters Uganda. So those are the kind of water bodies. Lake Albert, for example, is shared between Uganda and Congo. So those are the kind of water bodies that we share. So we call them transboundary water resources.
Dr. Tindimugaya explains that transboundary water cooperation has been there since time immemorial among the East African countries.
Actually, transboundary water cooperation has been ongoing since colonial time. Before Uganda became independent, transboundary water cooperation was going on by the British because Britain was the one in charge of our region, Uganda, Kenya, Tanzania. So cooperation started a long time ago. But of course, when our countries became independent, then they strengthened cooperation. So we have had cooperation on technical issues. Then later, they evolved to political cooperation. So we started, for example, the program in 1967 called Technical Cooperation on the Nile, where the countries that share River Nile were actually working together to know how much water is available, how it is changing over time, and how it can be used. Then later, we went into cooperation that was strengthened by bringing on board the ministers. So that's when we started the cooperation on Nile. So in 1999, that's when we started cooperation on the Nile Basin Initiative, and this cooperation has been ongoing. So we have had cooperation under the Nile Basin Initiative since 1999, and Nile Basin Initiative has its headquarters in Entebbe in Uganda, and here all countries that share Nile come together to cooperate on how to manage and develop the water resources of the Nile. And we have been having cooperation along what we call tracks. We have had a technical track where the technical teams have been working together to build the capacity, to protect the environment, to protect the water, to develop the water for irrigation, for hydropower, for drinking, and many other uses. But we had a political track which was negotiating an agreement on the Nile. We have been having agreements on the Nile, but we decided to come into a new agreement that is favorable to all the countries. We call it Cooperative Framework Agreement on the Nile. So that one was been one of the cooperation arrangements, and this one, the negotiations were completed in 2009. And I will shed more light on what it means for Uganda. Then we have also cooperation under Lake Victoria Basin Commission. So this Lake Victoria Basin Commission was created under East Africa Community. So the countries which share Lake Victoria, Uganda, Kenya, Tanzania, Burundi, Rwanda, have been cooperating on how to look after Lake Victoria, how to protect it, so that it continues providing services to us. So basically in our region has been cooperation under Nile for the whole of the Nile River, the countries where Nile River passes. we call it Nile Basin Initiative, and then countries around Lake Victoria, we call it Lake Victoria Basin Commission. But also we have engagements with other partners. We engage with international organizations, UNESCO, United Nations. UNESCO has a program on water, where it is looking at children and education, but we know that the children and in education, they need water. So we have a program on water. We have been having programs with, for example, Global Water Partnership. We have been having programs with Sahara and Sahel Observatory, with Intergovernmental Authority on Development, IGAD. So we have collaboration arrangement with many organizations, but the major ones are the one on the Nile and the one around Lake Victoria.
He refutes claims by some citizens of Uganda that some water bodies like Lake Victoria have been already sold.
Of course, people, when they look at Lake Victoria, they think it is a lake that is owned by Uganda. But this lake is not only for Uganda, it is for Kenya, for Tanzania, and Uganda, so we share it. So if someone, for example, say Uganda has sold Lake Victoria, has sold the water of Lake Victoria, it's actually not our water. This water comes from Burundi, comes from Rwanda, comes from Kenya and Tanzania. It only collects in Uganda. But this was, for example, that's why I have rivers like Kagera, rivers like Sio, Malaba flowing in. But we also have the Nile. River Nile starts in Jinja. So Lake Victoria is like a basin, it's a reservoir, it's a source of the Nile. Now, River Nile passes through Uganda, goes South Sudan, Sudan, and Egypt. So as the Nile flows, we use part of the water, but we have to leave water to go to South Sudan, and Egypt. So shared water resources are not owned by one country. They are for the benefit of all the countries. And whatever we are doing, we have to make sure that others get a fair share of the resource. The way we would not want Tanzania and Kenya to stop the water flowing in Lake Victoria, we want also us as Uganda to move. So one time, actually, Parliament had moved the motion that Sudan and Egypt should pay Uganda for the water from the Nile, which they use, because they thought that it is our water. But later, when we told them that actually it's not our water, and this is a water that belongs to other countries but comes to Uganda, then they realized that these resources have to be shared by all. As I told you, 69% of the water comes from outside our borders. It's only 31% that is generated from within Uganda. So you can imagine if close 70% comes from outside our borders, is that water yours? We have determined how much water we have in the country. We have found that we have 43 billion cubic meters of water annually. But 29 billion cubic meters of water comes from outside our borders. It's only 14 billion cubic meters of water that is generated from within Uganda, the rivers that are found in Uganda. So again, for us, cooperating with other countries is a must. Otherwise, if we don't cooperate with them, then we will not have enough water.
Transboundary water cooperation comes along with some opportunities that are beneficial to the nations that share the water.
Very, very important for Uganda, again, if you see Lake Victoria. If we don't cooperate with Kenya and Tanzania, how are we going to make sure that we look after it and we don't pollute it, but also don't overuse it? For example, for Uganda, we are using Lake Victoria to supply Kampala, to supply Jinja, to supply Entebbe with water. Kenya uses water, Kisumu and many other towns, Tanzania, Mwanza, and many other towns around the lake. Now, all of us are interested in making sure that the water is available in good quality and right quantity. So we work together to ensure that it's important. But for Uganda in particular, we have done a study and find that 69% of the water we have in Uganda comes from outside our borders. So for us, it is very, very, very important to work with the other countries, because if we don't work with them very well, then it means that water which we get from those countries may not continue flowing, but also it may continue flowing when it is polluted and we don't get enough. So for us, transboundary water cooperation is very, very important, because we feel and we know that without that, we cannot ensure that our interests and our needs as a country are met. we are using water to run turbines. At Jinja, for example, we have Narubale and Kira dams. Below Narubale, we have Bujagali. Below Bujagali, we have Isimba. Now we have Karuma. We have many other rivers on the Nile. If there was no water flowing through the Nile, and again coming from outside our borders, then obviously we will not be having power. So we're having benefits, hydropower, key. But we're also using this water for drinking. But we have had projects specifically targeting the use of these waters, but funded from the regional program. We have had a project called Lake Edward and Albert Fisheries and Water Resources Project between Uganda and Congo, where we have rehabilitated running sites, we have supported fisheries, we have put in place water supply systems, we have supported people to improve their incomes. We have a project that we have been implementing with Tanzania and Rwanda and Burundi, an ongoing irrigation project in Kabuyanda and Singiro, where we're trying to irrigate over 300 hectares. We are trying to use that water to irrigate. We have a project between Uganda and South Sudan where we're having an irrigation component, we're having a water supply component, we're having an environmental component. We have a project that recently we negotiated with Kenya. It is called Angororo Multipurpose Water Resources Project, where we're getting the water flowing from Kenya and we are using that water to generate power. We get part of the water for irrigation, for water supply, but also we protect the catchments. So we have also a project, we have been having a project called Lake Victoria Environmental Management Project, funded through Lake Victoria Basin Commission, where we have done quite a lot of work. We have, again, constructed, we have protected some areas with tree planting, restoring wetlands. We have supported people with the income-generating activities, but also have tried to reduce pollution. It was aimed at reducing pollution. So we have a number of projects that have been completed. We have a number of other projects that are ongoing. So we are benefiting a lot by getting money, and when we get money from the regional level, most of that money actually comes as grants. We take some bit of loan, but most of it comes as a grant. So we are mobilizing funds from the regional angle because we are bringing countries together, and many donors would want to fund projects that actually bringing countries together.
In sharing water resources, there are some challenges faced, as Dr. Tindimugaya elaborates.
Number one, as I told you, we have been negotiating an agreement on the Nile. You could have heard they call it Entebbe Agreement or Nile Agreement. This agreement basically was negotiated by all countries that share the Nile. The Nile is shared by Burundi, shared by Congo, DR Congo, Burundi, DR Congo, Ethiopia, Egypt, Sudan, South Sudan, Uganda, Kenya, Tanzania, and Rwanda. So we have 10 countries. 11th country, Eritrea, is not participating actively. It is an observer. But we have these countries that come together to actually manage the Nile Basin water resources. Now, during colonial time, around 1929, Britain signed an agreement with Egypt, which said all the waters of the Nile belong to Egypt. And anybody that's going to, any country that is going to use the water has to seek permission from Egypt. Then in 1959, Sudan convinced Egypt to allow them to use part of the water. So they gave them some little water, about 15% of the water. So those agreements were signed by Britain with Egypt. Now, those agreements are basically telling us that before you use the Nile, you have to get the permission of Egypt. So the countries said, after independence, we don't want to be bound by those agreements. So the countries started in 1997 to negotiate a new agreement. Egypt was there. In 2009, the agreement was concluded, but one article remained on the colonial agreements. Egypt and Sudan wanted the countries to keep them there. But the countries said, if we keep it there, then we have not changed the status quo. So that has been an issue of contention. So in 2010, in May, countries moved ahead to sign that agreement, and Egypt and Sudan were up in arms. And the countries tried to engage Egypt and Sudan. We didn't really succeed. So now countries have moved forward to ratify the agreement and basically have the agreement take effect. And the agreement says that if you get 6 countries that sign the agreement and deposit their instrument of ratification in the African Union, then this agreement will come into place. As I speak, we have now got 6 countries. We have Burundi, Ethiopia, Tanzania, Rwanda, and Uganda, and South Sudan. So we have 6 countries now. And so we have achieved the number that we require for that agreement to come in place. And of course, we expect that before the end of this year, there will be a meeting of the heads of states to actually launch, declare that the agreement is now has come in place, and then sign, establish the Nile Basin Commission. And the Nile Basin Commission basically comes into place after the agreement has been all ratified by the country. And the commission is going to be in Entebbe. So for us as Uganda, we have been having a small organization. So once the commission comes in place, then we'll have a very big organization with jobs, with opportunities for business people coming in, and of course opportunity to mobilize more money. But what has been the challenge? The challenge has been the political tension that Egypt and Sudan have said, whatever you are doing is not bearing in mind our interests. We are moving around, you are not listening to us. The countries have tried to bring them on board, but it has not been successful. So political tension is one of the challenges. And of course, when there is political tension, then again, the publicity, negative publicity. Our organization has been funded by donors. So there have been also some campaigns also to convince the donors not to fund. Of course, the challenges, some challenges, of course, go beyond political. Climate change. Our region has been suffering from flooding. So flooding, again, you find that because of environmental degradation as well. Then, of course, the other challenges have also been lack of a legal institutional framework. Again, because we have been having a transitional institution, Nile-based initiative, it didn't have illegal power in all the countries. Uganda, where it is established, we have recognized it by law, but when you go to Kenya, Tanzania, it is not recognized legally. So that has also been a challenge. And of course, funding has also been limited. Again, when you are not legally established, then it sometimes becomes difficult to get the resources and capacity. Yes. The most, of course, Lake Victoria is the biggest. That's why we have been having a challenge. So, but it's the same with the Lake Albert and all. That's why we have been having, as we work on water, we have fisheries programs. We have Lake Victoria Fisheries Management Program, which is looking at promoting sustainable fisheries around Lake Victoria. We have another one around Lake Albert. So it's not only in one water body, it has been in many, many other water bodies.
He also hinted on the future plans in strengthening transboundary water cooperation, especially in East Africa.
The plan is to have an institutional, legal and institutional framework. So we are going to establish the Nile Basin Commission very soon, since we have got the 6 countries. Those are the plans. And we expect that now we even have a stronger institution that can scale up implementation of its programs. We also expect to build more capacity, strengthen more cooperation, and be able to deliver more as an institution that is very, very well established. But also Uganda, we are also planning to accede to the global water conventions so that we have a strong legal basis for cooperation on transboundary water resources. And I would want to thank the different partners, World Bank, European Union, German government, all the other partners, and the countries themselves for the support that have been provided. Currently, Uganda is chairing the Nile Basin Initiative at ministerial level and technical level, and we have been doing it now for about 8 months. We'll be chairing up to June next year, and we have been driving the agenda, and we hope that once we establish the commission, we'll be ready to move cooperation, transboundary cooperation, a notch higher, and Ugandans expect to see more benefits from this cooperation. I want to call upon Ugandans, first of all, to know that cooperating with other countries is the way to go, because we share resources, we share water, we share other resources, and we are stronger when we cooperate. So I want to call upon Ugandans to come forward, protect water resources, protect the environment, but take advantage of the water so that we can create wealth, we can create incomes. Many areas we have water, but people are not using it to create wealth. But many areas people are degrading the wetlands, they are degrading the riverbanks, the forests. These are stores of water, and once they are degraded, then obviously we shall have no water. Agriculture close to the water bodies, the lakes, the rivers, is obviously causing problems. So I want to call upon Ugandans to recognize that transboundary water cooperation is real and is important, but we start by protecting what we have in the country so that we can all benefit from it.
Continued collaboration in transboundary water cooperation is the way to go in creating more wealth out of water resources.